There is a particular kind of silence that follows a family cutoff. It is not the silence of a simple disagreement. It is not the temporary distance that happens after an argument. It is the silence of unanswered calls, blocked numbers, missed holidays, and years passing without a conversation. From the outside, cutting off contact with family can look cold, impulsive, or even cruel. People often ask, how could someone abandon their own parents? Or, why can't they just forgive and move on? But psychologically, family estrangement is rarely that simple. For many people, cutting off contact is not the first choice. It is the final step after years of trying, explaining, forgiving, hoping, and getting hurt again. To understand why someone disconnects from their family, we first have to understand what family is supposed to represent. Family is usually our first experience of safety, trust, love, and belonging. As children, we depend on our caregivers not only for food and shelter, but also for emotional security. Their reactions teach us whether our feelings matter, whether our needs are acceptable, and whether the world is a safe place. But when a family repeatedly becomes a source of fear, shame, control, humiliation, or emotional pain, the meaning of family begins to change. Instead of safety, family may represent danger. Instead of comfort, it may create anxiety. Instead of belonging, it may demand obedience. And instead of love being freely given, love may feel conditional. Some people grow up learning that they are accepted only when they remain quiet, successful, useful, agreeable, or emotionally convenient. They may be allowed to belong, but only if they do not challenge the family's version of reality. In these families, boundaries are often treated as betrayal. Saying no is seen as disrespect. Wanting privacy is called secrecy. Disagreeing is labeled selfishness, and asking for accountability is treated like an attack. A person raised in this environment may spend years believing that something is wrong with them. They may feel guilty for having needs. They may apologize constantly. They may become highly sensitive to conflict, because conflict once carried the threat of rejection, punishment, or emotional withdrawal. As adults, they may continue trying to earn the love they could never fully secure as children. They explain themselves again and again. They lower their expectations, they ignore hurtful comments, they forgive broken promises. They return after every argument. They tell themselves they are still my family. But eventually, something changes. Sometimes it is one dramatic event. A betrayal, a threat, an act of violence, a cruel reaction during a vulnerable moment. A family member crossing a boundary involving a partner, a child, money, health, or personal safety. But often, the cutoff is not caused by one event. It is caused by accumulation. 1,000 small wounds can be just as damaging as one visible injury. Years of criticism, years of manipulation, years of being compared to siblings, years of being blamed for other people's emotions, years of being told that their memories are false, years of being expected to forgive without ever receiving an apology. Eventually, the person begins to realize that every interaction leaves them emotionally exhausted. They notice the physical reactions before family visits: the tight chest, the racing thoughts, the stomach pain, the urge to escape. They may rehearse every sentence in advance, trying to avoid saying something that will start another conflict. After the interaction, they may spend hours or days recovering. This is not just discomfort. It can be the nervous system responding to a relationship it has learned to associate with danger. When someone repeatedly experiences emotional harm, their brain may begin to treat family contact as a threat. A phone call can trigger panic. A message can cause dread. A familiar tone of voice can return them emotionally to childhood. This is why outsiders sometimes misunderstand estrangement. They see a missed family dinner. The estranged person feels years of unresolved pain inside that invitation. They are not only reacting to what is happening now, they are reacting to everything the interaction represents. Another major reason people cut off contact is chronic invalidation. Invalidation happens when a person's feelings, memories, or experiences are repeatedly denied or dismissed. They may hear phrases like, "You are too sensitive," "That never happened," "You always exaggerate," "You had a good childhood," "Stop living in the past," "We did the best we could." Some of these statements may sound reasonable on the surface, but when they are used to avoid responsibility, they prevent healing. A relationship cannot be repaired if only one person is allowed to define what happened. For reconciliation to work, there has to be some willingness to listen, reflect, and change. But in many dysfunctional families, maintaining the family image becomes more important than addressing the family pain. The person who speaks about the problem may be treated as the problem. They may be called dramatic, ungrateful, unstable, or disloyal. This creates a painful psychological conflict. On one side is the desire to belong. On the other side is the need to survive emotionally. The person may ask themselves, do I stay connected and keep losing myself? Or do I leave and lose my family? There is no painless answer. People who cut off contact often experience intense guilt, even when the decision protects them. They may question themselves constantly. Am I a bad person? Did I overreact? What if they die before we speak again? What will other people think? This guilt is especially strong when they were raised to believe that family loyalty must have no limits. In some families, loyalty means silence. It means protecting the people who hurt you. It means pretending everything is normal. It means sacrificing your mental health to keep everyone else comfortable. When someone finally refuses this role, the family may accuse them of destroying the relationship. But the relationship may have been damaged long before the cutoff. The cutoff simply makes the damage visible. Estrangement is also more likely when a person begins therapy, enters a healthy relationship, becomes a parent, or gains financial independence. These changes can create psychological distance from the family system. Therapy may help them name behavior they once considered normal. A supportive partner may show them what respect and emotional safety feel like. Becoming a parent may force them to confront what they experienced as a child. They may look at their own child and think, I could never treat them the way I was treated. That realization can be life-changing. Financial independence can also remove the control that kept them connected. Some families use money, housing, education, inheritance, or practical support as leverage. The message may be unspoken but clear. You can have our help, but only if you live the way we expect. Once a person no longer depends on that support, they may finally feel able to set boundaries. And if those boundaries are repeatedly violated, no contact may become the only boundary the family cannot ignore. It is important to understand that cutting off contact is not always permanent. Some people need temporary distance to think clearly. They may choose low contact instead of no contact. They may communicate only through messages. They may avoid certain topics. They may meet only in public places. They may stop attending family gatherings but remain connected to one or two relatives. Estrangement exists on a spectrum. The central issue is not always whether contact exists. The deeper question is whether the relationship allows dignity, safety, and emotional freedom. Not every family cutoff is completely justified or handled in a healthy way. Some people cut others off impulsively because they struggle with conflict, shame, emotional regulation, or fear of vulnerability. Some use silence as punishment. Some end relationships without explaining what needs to change. Some may misinterpret disagreement as abuse or believe that any discomfort is a reason to leave. Psychological understanding does not mean assuming that every estranged person is right and every family member is wrong. Human relationships are complicated. Different people can remember the same family very differently. A parent may remember sacrifice. A child may remember emotional absence. A sibling may remember stability. Another may remember fear. Several truths can exist inside the same family. But even when perspectives differ, the emotional impact on each person is still real. Healthy reconciliation requires more than demanding that someone return. It requires curiosity instead of defensiveness. It requires asking, what did this relationship feel like for you? It requires listening without immediately correcting the other person's memory. It requires taking responsibility without adding excuses. A genuine apology does not say, I am sorry you feel that way. It says, I understand that my actions hurt you. It also requires changed behavior. Without change, an apology becomes another way to restart the same cycle. Many estranged people are not waiting for perfect parents or perfect siblings. They are waiting for evidence that the relationship can become emotionally safe. They want their boundaries to be respected. They want private information to remain private. They want disagreements without insults. They want accountability without retaliation. They want to be treated as an adult, not as the role they played in childhood. Because families often assign roles, one child becomes the responsible one. Another becomes the problem. One becomes the peacemaker. Another becomes invisible. One carries the family's hopes. Another carries the family's blame. These roles may continue long after everyone grows up. When someone begins changing, the family system may resist. The peacemaker who stops fixing every conflict may be called selfish. The responsible child who says no may be called unreliable. The scapegoat who becomes confident may be accused of thinking they are better than everyone. The family may prefer the old version of the person because that version kept the system stable. Cutting off contact can therefore be an attempt to escape a role that no longer allows growth. But freedom has a cost. Estranged people often grieve relatives who are still alive. This is called ambiguous loss. There is no funeral, no clear ending, and often no social ritual for the grief. The person may miss their family while also knowing that contact is harmful. They may remember good moments and wonder whether the bad moments were really that serious. They may feel relief and heartbreak at the same time. Holidays can be especially difficult, so can weddings, births, illnesses, and deaths. Each major life event may reopen the question of whether to reconnect. This emotional contradiction does not mean the decision was wrong. It means attachment does not disappear simply because a relationship becomes unsafe. You can love someone and still need distance from them. You can understand someone's trauma without accepting their harmful behavior. You can forgive someone internally without allowing them back into your life. And you can miss the family you had while grieving the family you needed but never received. For people considering reconnection, the question should not simply be, do I still love them? A better question is, has anything meaningfully changed? Can both sides discuss the past without denial? Are boundaries respected? Is there accountability? Is contact based on mutual respect or renewed pressure? Does the relationship allow both people to exist as they are? Reconnection without change often leads back to the same pain. Distance, however, does not always have to be the final chapter. Some families do rebuild, but rebuilding requires humility. It requires patience. It requires accepting that trust returns slowly. And it requires understanding that forgiveness does not erase consequences. For some people, reconciliation becomes possible. For others, peace comes from accepting that the relationship may never become what they hoped it would be. Ultimately, people who cut off contact with their families are often not rejecting the idea of family. They may be rejecting a version of family that required them to abandon themselves. Their decision may not come from hatred. It may come from exhaustion. It may come from fear. It may come from grief. And sometimes, it comes from the first real act of self-protection they have ever allowed themselves. The deepest psychological truth is this: people rarely walk away from relationships in which they feel consistently loved, respected, heard, and safe. They usually walk away when staying connected costs them more of themselves than they can continue to lose.